In episode 2, we built the shell of our user service. It runs, it's fast, but it's useless. It has no memory. Today, we turn it into a real application. We are going to install SQLModel, connect to a database, build the logic to actually create and read users. By the end of this video, this service will be able to remember data even after we restart the server. Go to the terminal. So I'll expand my terminal a little bit and then clear it a little bit so you can see better. And then I will run a command saying uv add SQL model -- package user dash service and hit enter. You see it's installing a number of things. So we see SQL Alchemy installed and SQLModel also installed. This library called SQLModel is built by the same creator as FastAPI. It combines Pydantic validation with SQL Alchemy database power. This is very awesome. If I minimize this and go to the pyproject.toml, you'll see that SQLModel has been added. Go to services, user service, create models.py file, and inside here, I am going to define what a user actually looks like in our database. I'll create a class which inherits from SQLModel, then create an ID, name, email, and of course, a password. So I'll say from SQLModel, if I can spell this correctly, SQLModel, import SQLModel, and also field. Then for annotation, I'll need from typing, import optional, then create a class called user. This class inherits from SQLModel, and table is equals to true. And then on the next line, I can say we won't have an ID, which is optional. I'm making it optional because we can create instances from our code where we don't have to pass an ID. But at the database level, the database will create for us an ID automatically and auto increment them. So I'll say equals to field. Then we can add additional metadata or restrictions by saying default equals to none and primary key equals to true. After this, I can have now a name, name str email, string, password is also a string. Next up, let us look at how we can now set up our engine. Create a new file in the same directory, call it db.py, and after that, import by saying from SQLModel, import create engine and session. Now, we need a connection. Since we are still in development, we'll use SQLite. It creates a simple file for us, and this file will be called database.db in our folder. And we're also going to create a get session dependency. This will ensure that we open a connection for each request and close it when the request is done. So I'll create a variable called engine, whose value will be an instance of create engine. And then the value of this will be a string. And I'll say SQLite / database.db. And then can say connect args equals to a dictionary whose key is going to be check _same thread, the value will be false. You may wonder, what is this and what does it mean? This configuration or argument is one that disables a configuration of SQL Alchemy. So SQL Alchemy disables the default SQLite restriction that prevents a database connection from being shared across different threads. It is essential when using SQLite with multi-threaded web frameworks like FastAPI to prevent errors, allowing asynchronous or concurrent requests to access the database. On the next line, I will create a function which will be a dependency I talked about. And it's going to be a very simple one. I'll say define get underscore session. And this function will have a context with context saying with session, we pass the engine. Sorry, what's happening? We pass the engine as session, and then we simply yield the session. As simple as that. Now, let us now go to the main.py, and we're going to do two things. We're going to use a lifespan event to create the tables when the app starts. If we don't do this, the database will be empty. So I'll close this and go to the main.py. And like I said, we're going to create a lifespan event. But to do this, we need to import a few things. Okay. I'll say from context lib import async context manager. Again, I've talked about FastAPI in a crash course in more detail, so please look at it if this is new to you. This is not a FastAPI tutorial, but simply a tutorial to teach you how to build microservices. Then I'll need depends because we're working with dependencies. What else do I need? We need from DB import engine and the get session dependency. Then just above here, I can say I want to define an async def function, which will be called lifespan. And this will take our app. Okay. So it will be of type FastAPI. It will take a FastAPI app as an argument. And then here, we can now create our tables using SQLModel. For that to happen, I also need to import SQLModel. So I'll say from SQLModel, import SQLModel. Okay, that's good enough. I think even session, we need session like that. Then inside here, I can now say SQLModel dot metadata dot create all and then pass the engine. Remember, this engine is coming from our db.py file. When we're done with that, we can now say yield. We now yield. After this, we can now go to FastAPI on line 12 and say the lifespan is equals to lifespan. So this is an argument called lifespan whose value will be this function. Isn't that very, very simple? So make sure you understand this very, very well. Okay, I imported a few things which I'm seeing we are not using, but no problem. I'll just leave them here in case we need get session. Async context manager. Sorry, I was supposed to actually decorate this with it. So I have to say at async context manager. Simple as that. yeah, then I think these other things like depends, get session, yeah, let me just leave them for now. We'll need them soon. I was just thinking way ahead. Now I'll create two quick endpoints. The first one will be for creating users. I'll say define create user. This will take in a user of type user. So I need to import from models, import user to have the type. And then after that, shall have session of type session, which is a dependency, depends on get session. Then after that, I can simply say session dot add user. Okay, sorry, what's happening? Okay, I passed the user. Then session dot commit. After committing, I can now refresh session dot refresh and pass the same user instance, and then simply return the user. I can also decorate this by saying at app dot post, okay, / users / as simple as that. Then for the part that involves creating the users will be at app dot get, then say / users / and then define the path operation function read users. Also accepts a session. I can just copy this because it's the same structure. Then on the next line, the users will be fetched from session.execute. Okay, so I need to select from using the user model and say .all to give us everything. And select needs to be imported from SQLModel. So comma import select. Then after we have done doing that, we simply return users. So this, I had my app already running. If you've forgotten how to run it, I simply can close, clear the screen, and show you the command. But I will find a way of simplifying this in the future. If I forget, please let me know. So run that, okay? Where's the link? Copy the link to the documentation, paste in the browser. So if you go to create user, click try it out. I can remove the ID, okay? So we have John Doe, and the email is doe@gmail.com. This password is string 123 password, okay? And then execute. You see that in the response body, we have an email, password, ID, and name. Using ID with 6 because I've been playing around with this. But ideally, for the first time, you should see an ID of 1. We are returning plain text passwords in the response. This is a massive security flaw. You should never return your database model directly to the public. And of course, there should be extra validation. Okay. When you're building this in the real world, make sure your email and password has real validation. So to fix this at a basic level, I can simply go back here and create another model. This model will be called user public. User public. It will also inherit from SQLModel, but it won't be a database table, but it will have an ID representation, a name, and of course the email. Okay. Then, by the way, there's a better data type for email. Okay. You've probably seen me using it in other videos on this channel. Please make sure you use it in a real world project. Then go back to main.py, and response model will be the solution to that. So I'll say response model equals to user public. but then I need to import user public from models. So if I save and go back to documentation and maybe create john.2.2@gmail.com and execute, we have an internal server error. Okay, what could be wrong? Says unable to pass string as integer. Input should be a valid integer. Okay, so in fact, I think we should also see it somewhere here, but it's not shown here. Okay, so what value is it talking about? Is it in the user public? Oh, yeah, I see it. So name should be a string. Sorry, it's supposed to be a string and not an integer. Sorry. So I'll get back here and execute. When I scroll, are you seeing in our response body, we now have the ID, the name, and the email. And this time, we do not have the password. So this is the best way to do it. And right now, our service works, but it uses a local file for a database. In episode 4, we are going to containerize this, okay, and write a Docker file, swap the SQLite for a real Postgres container. That's when we now go to a pro level. See you there. Like, share, subscribe. We are growing step by step. And trust me, after a number of videos, you will see how advanced we shall be in microservices.